Welcome to Gold Coast Insider, where we bring you business insights, stories, opportunities and forecasts from movers and shakers across the Gold Coast. I'm your host, Estella Rodiguero. I'm CEO of Regional Development Australia Gold Coast. My guest today is Monica Russell. Monica is an expert lead at Materialise Australia, specialising in the integration of the company's medical software solutions within the Australia and New Zealand markets. In addition to her role at Materialise, Monica served as a valued member of the Adapt 1.0 Advisory Board at Griffith University. Monica is the visionary founder of Ontic Ortho Solutions, a company dedicated to perfecting medical device placements through the development of precise 3D anatomical models for educational purposes. Her passion for medical technologies extends beyond her professional endeavours, as she actively promotes the adoption of 3D technologies across various applications and industries. Welcome, Monica. It's absolutely fabulous to be speaking to you today.
Thank you, Stella. It's nice to be here.
So I'm going to start with, can you tell me about your journey into the world that you are now in 3D printing?
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be this is my first podcast, so I apologize in advance for any mishaps, but happy to share my story. Yes, well, I started my journey with Materialise 4 years ago in 2019, when Materialise originally actually moved to the Gold Coast here. Prior to that, I come from, various experiences and 19 years of experience and from the business and operational world. My journey actually probably led me to where I am today, because I used to work in large format 3D printing. So when I mean large format, you think your fascias, building, load bearings, wind bearings, that kind of stuff. And I really was sort of hooked on how the printing machines work, how fast they can work, what sort of materials you can test with, why can't you print in wood, screen printing. So I became really hooked on that. It was just, very interesting to me. I've always enjoyed the business world, but I'm also a technical person. So I need sort of a holistic, approach to what I do, so I can be involved in both. So that was a very good role for me. And then I moved into more engineering, and that was more in forestry, large tanks, your sub tanks that go underground. And I did that for a few years, and that was also very interesting. I learned a lot. So it's very technical, and it's a different world. It's a very male driven world, a very funny one at that, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think at one point there was like about 30 people, in the factory, and I was the only female, in the office, only female, but they're all great. They're fantastic. I had one time working there. I learned lots, still have lots of friends, from my previous job. So, yeah, from that, I came to Australia about 7 years ago. Over here, I was working for a company called S&A Stairs, where they build custom-made stairs, and they work with people like Metricon. They've been around for about 120 years. Very good company, family-owned. And I was doing the mass production planning and scheduling, so managing 15 installers, running the factory efficiently. And it was fantastic. I learned lots. It taught me lots of further technical abilities in a completely different environment. And then Materialise, I saw, one of those emails that you get from Seek. I saw this, this thing just pop up in my email, and I got curious. So I thought, okay, well, I'll put my CV forward. I'm not an engineer by trade. I'm not a clinician by trade, but I took all the other boxes. Mm-hmm. So I did. I didn't write a cover letter. I just sent my CV out. I thought, well, if they find it interesting, they'll give me a call. And funny enough, which they did the same day.
All right. So that was about 4 years ago, wasn't it? So 4 years ago, you started with Materialise. Do you want to quickly give us an overview of what Materialise is and what it stands for?
Actually, Materialise is quite a large company. We're based around 34 countries. We have about 2,200 staff, maybe 2,300 now as of 2024. So we're quite large.
So the base of Materialise is in Australia. Is that the Gold Coast?
No, so we are a satellite office. HQ is in Belgium. It is a Belgium company.
Okay.
This is in US and Ukraine, Malaysia. One of our largest support office for APAC region is in Malaysia. I think we've got about maybe 250 staff in Malaysia. So that kind of links us. So that's our major support hub for Australia. So Materialise specializes in 3D printing technologies. Materialise is well known in the medical industry, in our field, and in biomedical engineering, academia, and hospitals. But Materialise is much larger than that. Materialise also focuses on industrial manufacturing. So if you think of, your aerospace, footwear, robotics, and the list goes on. We do so much on that side of the space as well. I don't know if you're aware of the movie called Black Panther. Materialise 3D printed the dress and the crown, the costume, the award, for that particular movie. So yes, Materialise is very, very diverse. Materialise has been around for 33 plus years. And our CEO originally started Materialise from his garage in the 90s.
Oh, seriously. So Materialise stands for a lot more than just in the medical field. So do you work across those fields here in your role at the moment?
No, we don't. We focus here in Australia. Our major focus is medical and mass personalisation. Materialises, and I think that was one of the values that really attracted me to Materialise, was its value in mass personalisation and personalised medicine for every patient. And Materialise strongly believe in that, and they've always been a driver for it, and they always will. It's a core value for the company to be able. Everyone deserves good healthcare.
Yeah.
And that's the big drive from Materialise, to provide that healthcare for everyone, regardless of if you're a public patient or if you're a private patient. And unfortunately, in our world, and if you're a public patient, we all know that the treatment's not the same as if you're a private patient and you can afford private healthcare. So mass personalisation is a big driver for that, in improving patient outcomes.
So what specific challenges does Materialise address in the healthcare industry? So what exactly does Materialise do?
So Materialise's key focus, so we make medical software that you can use for planning cases. So you can, you're not going into surgery, unplanned, and it improves patient outcomes. So you can take your CT, your MRI, you put it into the system, you can analyze what you're going to do, and it will give you an outcome. And you can take that, you'll also use the same technology to actually 3D print devices. So it could be your guides, for instance, if you're doing osteotomy case, or if you're doing your CMF, or if you're, set up for manufacturing, then you could actually be printing an implant that you will use using the same technology. So there's that aspect of it. But then
can you actually use that implant? Sorry, Monica, can you actually use that implant?
Yeah, absolutely.
3D print an actual
correct
replica of the patient's injured area. This is a layman's talk, isn't it? Take it from there, explain it from there. Don't make it keep going.
So I'll explain it in this way. So Materialise specializes in three areas in the medical space. So we do academia, which is your research and your innovation. Then we focus on hospital, which is mass personalization, point of care technology, which means holistic approach to mass personalization within the hospital environment. And then we do medical device companies. So we support medical device companies. We really are the backbone of that. So, you see some of the large medical device companies where they will be using our technology and our engineers to be able to service their technology in hospitals or creation of that particular technology. So that side of it, which is quite large. Then you've got your hospital, which we were just currently talking about. And hospitals, we call them point of care centers, where we can have an engineer present or a number of engineers present. Then you will have, cases that will come in where surgeons would normally just look at a CT and just go to surgery because that's all they had access to, or they would need to wait, say, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks to be able to get this, get it from the outside. Now they can do all of this in-house. So we have number of point of care centers, like we've got HBI over here that you might have heard of, Chris O'Brien Lifehouse in Sydney. We've got Royal Perth. The newest one of the newest ones that we've established recently is Hunter, New England, in Newcastle. So they all have capabilities, not just to be able to plan they operations before they go into theatre using biomedical engineers, but they also can print implants that can be used.
What are the implants printed from that are used?
It can differ. It is kind of different medical grade plastic. you put it, like resin, different types of resins. You can do metal implants, which Materialise does, and it gets shipped here. They're highly regulated, so there's not many hospitals that currently do metal implants, but they certainly will be if you've got the right technology, because it is quite extensive, well regulated, and as it should be. And also from health and safety, it requires you to have a very good facility to be able to do that.
So that is really interesting. So the end result of this new technology has to be to the patient's benefit, like, and the surgeons, I guess. Less time in theatre. It's not a one size fits all.
Correct. Absolutely. You nailed it. And that's exactly what it is. And you can't treat, it doesn't, one size shouldn't fit all. And that is the ambition, Materialise ambition for, personalised medicine. So, it is everything that is used in custom, environment with Materialise. It is absolutely fitted to you. It cannot be used with anyone else. So let's say if you needed a shoulder replacement, it will only be made to fit your shoulder, for example, and, it can't be used on anyone else. But if you don't go ahead with the surgery, that needs to be thrown away. And that's the same goes for any sort of trauma cases that might be happening in hospital. They've got a broken bone and, they need a guide or something to sort of, repurpose that particular bone. It's made to it can't be used with any other patient, which means it is improved patient outcome. It means less revision. It means less equipment being used in OR. So, for example, before, if you went into OR, you needed an implant, they will bring in like 30 implants. To say, okay, well, which is going to fit? And, the surgeons sort of going to decide, and they might need to open 15 of them before they'll decide which is the right fit. But now, with this using Materialise technology, what you do is you can plan it ahead and you go, okay, well, these 3 are the best implants. This is, we'll choose from this rather than having 30 in there. And that's not an exaggeration. You can actually end up with that number of, equipment, kits and operation theatre. So it saves time, it lowers cost, in OR. It's better patient outcomes all around. So it is a very beneficial technology, and it is the future.
Yeah, well, we'll touch in on the future soon, but I wanted to quickly move on to Ontic Ortho Solutions. So your commitment to this field led you to the establishment of Ontic Ortho Solutions. Do you want to start that story? Like, how did that evolve, and how did you come up with the idea of establishing it, and what was the vision for your company?
So this is quite interesting story, as you probably read in my bio. I'm sort of very immersed in academia, and it is, and I, that's part of my job. I go to all different universities. I'm very immersed in what they do, what they're creating. Research with purpose. What are they looking to do with technology? How I can offer my expertise in that area. And, and Ontic was one of them. It wasn't my idea alone. I'm not sure if you know, Associate Professor David Saxby from Griffith University, and Professor Randy Bindra, who practices here at Gold Coast University Hospital, is also at GCOR here at Griffith. It was actually one of their research projects that they've sort of been working on, and they knew there was an issue and they didn't know how to fix it. And Randy, being a surgeon, he wanted better models. David, being a researcher, he wanted to innovate something, and they had this idea, and we had talked about it before. And I said to them, and coming from the industry, I sort of looked at it and went, well, why don't you commercialize it? And I could see how being so involved in academia and in hospitals, in my osteotomy cases and implants in the last 3 years, I could see how it could be beneficial. And I knew these companies around that do similar things. There's only 2 companies that's been around for the last 30 plus years, in the US and Europe, that have driven the market. So over here, and particularly in the ANZ market, APAC region, if they need a anatomical model to practice on devices, they have to place that order 6 months in advance. So, and that's also an issue in our field. Anyway, so that's how the original idea developed. I mean, I guess for this particular project, I was driven by, my personal vision, wanting to improve surgical training. And it came from a personal experience. I lost my son 7 years ago. He was stillborn in New Zealand. And at the time, when things were going wrong, I guess I was very naive, not being in the medical field, and without doubt, blindly, if someone's got a blue coat on and you trust them until you realize there's medical negligence and they haven't had the right training. So, I'm not a gynecologist. I don't come from that field. So I wanted to do some change or see something good come out of it, sort of really drove Ontic. And, I'm very grateful that my business partner sort of, they really saw the vision and they wanted to make the change and have a longer lasting impact. And that's how Ontic was born. There's three of us talking, wanting to solve a issue, wanting to improve patient care.
So what is the process of creating realistic bone anatomy and fracture patterns for Ontic surgical training models? Because a lot of it's around that training, isn't it? It's using these models to support training and perhaps, with the ultimate result of improved patient care.
Yeah, absolutely. So the process is we use Materialise medical software, which is the approved software that you can use. So we take patient CT scans of the actual bone. So it could be, your long bones. It could
be any bone, Monica.
It could be any bone, basically. If it requires an implant or if it requires any sort of instrument to be used on it, or Ontic will create that model. So what we do, we take the patient scan, we analyze that scan, then we use the data depending on which medical device company we're working with. All the Ontic solution looks like it's a standard solution. It's not a standard solution. So each medical device companies we work with, it's customized to fit their solutions. So when surgeons are practicing with it, learning how to fix those devices or use their kit or any form of instrument, they're getting the benefit of that.
So it also develops the equipment that is used in surgical areas within bones, is it? So, it's like not using a screwdriver for changing things, I guess.
Exactly right. So medical device companies have their own kits that they use, and all these kits can be very different depending on which device is being used.
I understand.
So, like we were just talking about, one, size fits all that approach doesn't work. And it's the same in the medical device industry where one size doesn't fit all. So just having a standard bone and you've got 5 different devices and instruments that you want to practice on, it's going to give different results. So if you've got different fractures, and different breaks in different part of the body, then you want to adapt your technology to be able to sort of enhance that for the surgeon. So they're seeing that, okay, well, this application fits with this really well with this particular device or instrument, and this is how it should be used rather than just your standard bone models. And that's where Ontic fits in. We use real data, patient data, CT scans to analyze that. That's what we use to create these models using 3D printing, then we see that the results are much better.
So in what ways do you anticipate these models positively impact that surgical skills and also patient outcomes?
So by learning how to do device placement, having more training, because there's a lack of cadavers available for surgeons to practice with. It's more regulated now, so it makes it very, very difficult. And even if they do get access to cadavers, when they break a bone because it's been frozen, it can just shatter. So as an example, they don't get the practice they need. So they really do get a hands-on experience as to what a device should feel like when they're fixing it, when they're placing the certain screws. Is it fitted over the bone correctly? They get that authentic feel of, if you were drilling through a bone, you go through like the hard bone, then you'll go like a soft tissue inside the cancellous bit out the other end. And surgeons rely highly on their sensory to be able to do that. And that's what our bone model really assists with, to be able to give them that feel, because it is about feel. Because although, when you're practicing, you've got a whole bone that you can see in front of you, and surgery is not like that. You've got tissues, you've got ligaments, you've got all these things that cover it. So they really do rely on their sensory experience to be able to do it correctly.
So looking ahead, what are Ontic Ortho Solutions' goals for the future product development and advancements, I guess, in orthopedic surgical technologies?
Well, currently, we have a number of goals, and the idea is to be able to, be global, to be able to service not just orthopedic bone models, but also sort of go into veterinary, your CMF applications as well, but also to move into the AR, VR technology. As we know, physical models are very, very important, but when you're going to surgery, you're going to have a lot more of, you using your digital technologies as well for being able to, have that surgical experience. So that's part of the development plan for Ontic, to have an app, use that AR VR technology alongside the models to give more enhanced and more realistic experience for the surgeons.
So Ontic focuses on crafting highly realistic bone and fracture models, correct? Providing an authentic, like, sensory experience for users to interact with these models. So as you're gearing up that for surgical training in 24, you've just announced your latest innovation, which is transparent distal radius models. So that must be exciting for yourselves. Can you talk us through what that is?
Yeah. So we actually launched two products, transparent models. One is the distal radius, and it is transparent. So it's got a bone fracture, realistic bone fracture pattern. So when surgeons use to train with those, when they're placing the plates on them, and they'll actually be able to see what the screws are doing, for instance, how the plates being placed to fix the broken bone. Normally you would need to X-ray to see what it's doing, but you don't have to do that with those models. You can actually see it using your eyes. So it's a lot more beneficial for training. We've also recently launched our tibia and fibia model, which is your long bone on the lower part of your body, and that's for a nailing system where they actually draw a whole long nail into your bone to fix that broken bone, and then they place screws. So that's what that is doing, but that's again the purpose of that, so they can actually see how they're fixing the devices on patients to enhance that experience and that knowledge.
So what excites you most about the future of 3D printing and its potential for positive change? What excites you and keeps you going?
So much, so much, so much.
Oh, that would be the answer.
Yeah, so much. Mass personalization, I think is very, very important. And, being able to give, personalized care to each individual person on this planet would be amazing.
Mm.
And, that's our drive at Materialise, and that's kind of the drive at Ontic, but at a different level, focusing on education, which is actually the very beginning part of 3D printing. That's where, this is how our engineers learn in universities when they come out. That's what they practice. So it's, I guess Ontic kind of sort of fits into that aspect of Materialise as well. It teaches the focuses on the education side, while Materialise actually manufactures the actual implants, and the software to be able to, have a holistic approach.
Yeah. What role does AI play in all this, Monica?
A lot of the algorithms now is run by AI, just to speed up the process for it to be more accurate as well, which means where you could spend, I don't know, 6 hours doing a segmentation on anatomy. Now you could do that like in 2 hours or 30 minutes, for in fact. So depending on which anatomy it is. So a lot of our technology is adapted to AI technology to be able to do that. We are also working on, your augmented reality, so your AR technology, where that will get integrated into this system as well, which is actually already developed, is in the process of approval. So surgeons can have more realistic experiences when they have either, they're doing patient planning or they're creating an implant. They can sort of experience that without having to print that out. And that's to make it more affordable within the hospital environment, within the teaching environment, whether that's through Ontic or universities, where engineers are, medical schools. So overall, it is all about holistic approach and how we bring it all together.
So when you first started with Materialise, that was about 4 years ago, there were 4 of you. How many in your team now, and what are those jobs? Like, what has it expanded to, and what are the roles in those Nice.
So there was three of us when we originally started. And of course, we have a large global team that give us the support.
Yeah.
We couldn't run here with just three of us. We have a whole team of people, legal, marketing, sales assistants, all from Europe and APAC. But now there's seven of us. So we have additional account managers that manage each portfolio compared to before, where it used to just be managed by three people. A team leader, Michael Matthews, who looks after the team and runs the team. He's been with us, I think, 2 years now, 2.5 years, doing a fantastic job. We have an engineer present here now as well. While before we actually used to have engineers present in Belgium and in Malaysia, we actually have an engineer now who is a graduate from QUT, from biomedical engineering that we hired. I guess that's also an inspiration where, we can take on local talents that are studying in the field and are the research and innovators to grow. And I think for the future for Materialise, I would really like to sort of see for us to be able to do mass production here on this side of the world for 3D printing, for our devices.
And do you see that?
The APAC region anyway.
Yeah. Do you see that happening in the near future?
We can be pretty persuasive. I think we're put the data's right. I'm sure HQ will be on board. I mean, that's the dream. So we'd like to see some of that here, which means, more job creation, here in Australia, not just Queensland. We are a very diverse company. You can work from anywhere. So it does mean a large growth, which means the latest technology in 3D printing technologies, which means less lead time for hospitals for some of the devices like we were talking about metal implants, which hospitals can't really produce unless they're really well equipped and set up for it. It's expensive. Health and safety is very high. You need rooms, proper rooms set up so nothing blows up, for an example. So, hazard wise. So, if we can bring some of that, our experience here, I think we will really see that field grow.
And you're based at the Gold Coast Health and Knowledge Precinct, aren't you? Right here on the Gold Coast.
We're based at Griffith University at the moment in the engineering building, but when we originally moved here, that is the purpose to be based at the Gold Coast Health Knowledge Precinct when the new Adapt building is built.
Okay. So my last question, and you've been fabulous. I don't understand half of what you do, but it's amazing. How do you balance your roles and responsibilities as a founder, a manager, an ambassador, a researcher, and a mum of 4 children? Like, seriously, how do you do that, Monica?
I don't know. I think, I'm a very passionate person and I'm driven by passion. So whatever I do, if I'm not passionate about it, I simply won't do it. And to me, it materializes like the backbone of what I do. I've learned so much, being in my role at Materialise, and I'm, very grateful for them to actually have given me the opportunity to be able to create Ontic. Materialise is unique like that. I don't think you hear very often where you can be part of a company and to be able to create your own company. And they've given me a lot of support and knowledge and experience, and they have really been a strong backbone of creating Ontic. So so I think that really sort of helps me juggle the two, where they kind of sometimes merge into one. Because they are both in the similar field, so they're not very different in what it is in my role. So I think that really helps.
One complements the other too, doesn't it, really?
Exactly right. So, and that's what when I was saying that holistic approach, they both sort of complement each other and fit into, not sort of, they do complement each other and fit into each other. So it just makes it, I think, much easier for me to manage and keep that passion going, that's for sure. Kids, I think that's always a juggle, as we know. For kids, it's a busy household, but my family's fantastic, and I couldn't do it without my husband. All the traveling I do, and the dinners and everything. He really is my backbone at home, I guess. For me to be able to sort of focus, and it is like having 2 jobs. And my kids are pretty amazing. They're all very independent, and my oldest has moved out, and he's going to be a father soon, so I'm going to be a grandma. So they are very dependent children, and I'm very blessed that they are independent, which allows me to be able to do what I do, and hopefully I inspire them in some way.
I'm sure you do. So you're new to the Gold Coast, and I did say the last question was the last one, but this one truly will be the last one for you. You've moved to the Gold Coast. Can you tell me what is it about the Gold Coast, not just in the business world, but what keeps you on the Gold Coast, and what is it that you love about the Gold Coast personally?
I don't personally think Gold Coast is amazing. I mean, before we moved here, my husband and I, neither of us had been here before to the Gold Coast. We'd been to Sydney, we'd been to Melbourne, we knew about WA. And it really was, we sort of went, okay, well, where do we want to live? And I did, being who I am, a business person, a lot of analysis as to, what Gold Coast offered, what WA offered, what the living thing was. And they really sort of tipped it for me. I think it was, people see it as a very touristy destination, which it is. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, where else would you want to go every summer? Everything's at your doorstep, the beaches, the theme parks, all of that. I just felt it would be really, really good for our kids, and grounding the kids was the most important thing, because if your kids aren't happy, you can't live somewhere. So we wanted to give them an environment where, it was kids friendly, where they would be able to be independent and explore and experience new things quite different to New Zealand. Mm-hmm. And, work-wise, it was a bit different too. We were coming into the unknown. We both came here with no job. We just took a chance and sort of went, okay, look, what is it going to do for us? And, it was a very positive change for my family. And, my husband has his own business. He runs here and commercial cleaning. And, I've sort of, have changed a couple of jobs around, but it offers everything, from career to have a good family lifestyle. And, I go away on holiday and come back home, and this feels like a holiday. It doesn't, what I mean? Like, nothing compares.
Yeah, absolutely. I know exactly what you're saying.
It's a really hard way to describe it. For me, nothing compares. Like, nothing can beat where I live.
I know. I often think, now, where will I go? And I look at other beaches and I'm going, hang on, I've got the best beach here, haven't I? So why am I doing that? So I totally understand what you're saying. And I guess, when you're talking about your children, we've also got brilliant universities and training colleges. We're here for kids. Like, they don't have to leave any longer to study and to get jobs.
Exactly right. Everything's like, a tram ride away for them, which makes it very, 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 very accessible. I think it's very, family friendly. It's very safe. Where we live, it feels like home. It's a community. That's what it is. Everyone looks out for each other. If something was going to happen, before you know it, it's on the community pages. Everyone's aware. News travels too fast. You do feel safe, and I think it's fantastic for children. They do have a lot of opportunities. There's something happening all the time.
Look, thank you so much for speaking with me today, Monica. I can't wait to see how all this evolves. I mean, for the benefit, the thought that, I can have a replacement when I need my hip replacement or something. Hopefully I don't, but you know what it is. That I can have a purpose-built one that just is part of my body is just the most amazing thing. So thank you so much. And thank you for all the hard work you do. Gosh, you make it a difference. So thank you.
No, thank you. I mean, it's people like yourselves, I think, that highlight, what actually happens. Sometimes so much happens and so many positive things happen, and you don't really hear about it. So no, thank you for having me and highlighting some of the things that we want to do in the future. And yeah, the future is exciting.
It is. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening today. For a complete list of podcast episodes and transcripts, go to rdagoldcoast.org.au/podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter.